Hey guys, it's Josh Wakeham here with a quick saxophone lesson for you today. Today we're going to go over 5 common mistakes I see people make and how you can easily fix them to change your saxophone tone from this to this. Now most of these are aimed towards beginners, but there's a few in there which will help intermediate and maybe even some advanced players as well. And if you stick about for the end, there's even a cheeky little bonus technique tip. Hey, what a win. And the first mistake is not picking a reed that is the appropriate strength for you. So if you weren't aware, reeds normally have a number on the back of them on that flat side, right down at the bottom, and this tells us the strength of the reed. The higher the number, the higher the strength, the harder the reed is to play, but the bigger sound we're going to get out of it. Now traditionally, beginners are told to start on like a strength 1.5 reed, which is super easy to blow, but you're going to get a really thin, pathetic sound out of, and you're not going to sound like the saxophonist you really want to sound like. If instead you start on a strength 2 reed, or if you're an adult or a teenager, a strength 2.5, it's going to be a tiny bit harder to play, but if you breathe correctly and got the correct embouchure, which we'll go over a bit later on, you're still going to be able to get a sound out quite easily, and your sound is going to be so much better from the get-go. One thing to watch out for is different reed companies have different ways of measuring strength, I think, just to annoy us. So it means that Van Doren reeds, for example, are always a tiny bit harder than Rico reeds. Now I always recommend beginners start off with these Rico orange box reeds because they're really beginner friendly, they're relatively cheap, and they're quite consistent. But if you do want to start with Van Doren reeds instead, just be aware that a Rico 2.5 is like a Van Doren 2. Now the second mistake is having the neck strap at completely the wrong height. So as hopefully you're aware, when we're playing the saxophone, we want to make sure we're using a neck strap so that most of the weight of the instrument is on our neck and we're not like lifting it up as we play. But so often people will put the neck strap on, click the saxophone in, and not adjust the height, which means either we're having to lift the instrument up to get it to our mouth, which is going to put loads of strain on our forearms and our fingers, or we're having to slouch over, and doing that is going to really constrict the throat, which is going to ruin our tone straight away. Or if the neck strap's too high, we're going to have to stretch our necks upwards. And again, that's going to really put a lot of tension in the throat, making us sound a lot worse. Instead, if we take 30 seconds to just adjust the neck strap to the right height, so that when we push the saxophone out, the saxophone comes to us, we're going to be able to stay a lot more relaxed when we play and get a far better sound right away. Before we get on to the next few things, if you are enjoying this video or finding it useful, please give it a like and subscribe below. It really help me out and help me make more videos on this channel for you. So mistake number 3 is all to do with the embouchure, which is the fancy word we use for our mouth. Now, as you're probably aware, if you've watched any other YouTube videos or if you've had any saxophone lessons yourself, we want to have a bit of our bottom lip pulled back over our bottom teeth to provide a bit of a cushion between our teeth and the reed. And that's going to really help us control the sound and just play a bit more comfortably. But so often we think, okay, lip over our teeth, and we pull it really far back. And that ends up covering loads and loads of the reed. And it's the reed vibrating that makes the sound. So the more we cover this with our lip, the less sound we're going to be able to get. And it can end up sounding a bit like this. But if we go too far the other way and don't have enough lip over, it's going to be really hard to control it. It's going to sound really raw, a bit duck-like and a little bit horrible, like this. Luckily, getting the right amount of lip is super easy. All we've got to do is make that V sound, V, V. And when we're doing that, a tiny bit of our lip, our bottom lip, naturally comes over our teeth, V, V, V. And if we put the mouthpiece in our mouth while making that position, V, 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 we're going to get a tiny bit of our lip between the teeth and the reed, giving us that nice control of the sound without covering too much of it, so we're still going to have a nice, big, rich sound on the instrument. A bit like this. Now, mistake number 4 I see people make is not putting the right amount of mouthpiece in the mouth. Now this is kind of similar to the last one, where we're trying to get just the right amount of reed vibrating so we get that big sound without having so much that we can't really control it. So if we start playing, we've got that the position, but we don't put enough mouthpiece in our mouth, we get a really thin sound. But if we put too much in our mouth, we'll get that raw, raucous sound. So we want somewhere between the two. Now luckily this is really easy to work out how much. All we need is to get a bit of paper and our mouthpiece. And we slide the bit of paper between the mouthpiece and the reed till it naturally comes to a stop. And this will have shown us the point where the reed and the mouthpiece separate. So if we put our thumb there, take the paper out, and keeping our thumb there, just put the mouthpiece in our mouth until our thumb hits our bottom lip. And this tells us, or shows us, exactly how much we need to put in. And if we play the saxophone with that much mouthpiece in our mouth, we're going to get this nice big sound. So already we've got such a bigger, better sound just with these first 4 tips. And now number 5 is perhaps the most important of all, and that's all about breathing. Now breathing is such a big and important part of our technique when we're playing the saxophone, and definitely deserves a video all by itself. And I'll probably make that further down the line, but today the thing I really want to focus on is making sure we're breathing from our diaphragm or the bottom of our lungs and not breathing from our chest or the top of our lungs. So if when we breathe in, our shoulders come up and our stomach comes in, we're breathing from the top of our lungs, we have no real control over it, the sound we get on the instrument is going to be a little bit rubbish. And instead, when we breathe in, if our shoulders stay nice and relaxed and our stomach comes out, like that, we're really filling up the bottom of our lungs. We're getting so much more air in and we get a lot more control over it. Couple that with when we're breathing out, really tensing our stomach muscles and pushing from here like with a Hulk or something. We're going to get a huge sound on the instrument just by changing our breathing. So I hope going over those 5 mistakes has really helped you out, but I did promise you a bonus tip for sticking around all the way to the end. And this is actually all about how we hold the instrument, specifically where our left-hand thumb goes. Now you're probably aware we want to have it on that little pad on the back, but so often people will put it there right in the middle and be miles away from the little octave key we've got above. And instead, if we just reposition it so we're right next to the octave key, so when we need to press it, we don't need to lift our thumb up. We can instead just press down with our thumb and we're already there. That's going to really speed up how quickly you can get into that upper register and jump between the registers as you advance. So I hope that will help you on your saxophone journey. If you've enjoyed this, as I said, please give this video a like, consider subscribing and leave a comment down below to let me know how you've got on. Good luck with it, and I'll see you next time. This camera is really deciding not to focus.